Fishermen like Tim Wall, who fish in Malpeque Bay, say they were pleased to hear DFO pulled more traps out of the water last weekend. Lennox Island First Nation says 58 of its lobster traps were removed by the department on Sunday in French River. They were part of a self-run moderate livelihood fishery, also called a treaty-protected fishery. DFO says the First Nation's traps are unauthorized.
There's been a lot of extra pressure on the resource. And, you know, you can only split the pie so many ways sometimes before your slices start to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So we like to see kind of the principle of one gear in, one gear out. So if they're adding pressure to the resource, then it should be from the gears that are already in the existing area.
The First Nation set 1,500 moderate livelihood lobster traps this year, but DFO says it only approved 1,000. It also removed hundreds of First Nation traps from Malpeque Bay last month. The department says it is providing money for Indigenous groups to buy existing lobster licenses.
We're committed to reconciliation and working with First Nation partners to implement their rights in the fishery in a sustainable way that's mindful of conservation and pressure on fish stocks.
The chief of Lennox Island First Nation is happy about the funding and has signed on.
If we were able to get more access to the commercial fishery, then the pressures would not be there for the treaty fishery to be increased at all, right? So when DFO said that they had this new program out, I said, well, I guess I have to be happy because that's exactly what I've been asking for all along.
Fishers like Wall say they want DFO to define what a moderate livelihood is and think non-Indigenous fishers should get a seat at the table for future decisions. But Bernard says non-Indigenous fishers do not have a say.
The treaty protected fishery, it's the right of the Mi'kmaq people here. And it's for us to regulate it and to implement it and to protect it and to exercise our rights. We are the stakeholders here.
As for defining moderate livelihood, DFO says that's hard to do.
There's no plans to define it, but certainly engaged in dialogue with partners to understand what the right means to them and how we can work together to implement it in a proper way.
Bernard says the First Nation has replaced all of the traps that have been removed and is considering legal action. Connor Lamont, CBC News, Malpeque Bay.